I want to thank everyone for coming here today. The dedicated people who showed up shall benefit. And they'll also get a chance to guess whether or not I'm actually wearing pants. You never know with these web conferences. You know, who knows what the person's wearing. I don't know if you remember that BBC video of the guy whose kids started coming in,
Yeah.
but he confirmed that one of the reasons he did not get up was, in fact, the case that he was not wearing pants.
Fabulous.
Because, you know, you're going to go on national television, but why would you bother with the pants? Because I don't think the anchors do either. I mean, if you look behind the desk there, they're all wearing shorts and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I've always read also. So we can keep the mystery going for you, Chris.
Exactly. So anyways, basically the purpose of these office hours, just give people a chance to ask questions, whatever questions happen to come to mind. It could be about any topic. And if people fail to ask questions, well, I can always make stuff up. But, you know, in general, it goes a little better if you have a chance to ask questions. And so since the dedicated folks made the effort to show up today, I'll give them the chance to decide who wants to ask the first question.
Okay, I'll shoot.
Go for
it. Let's see. So I'm dealing with a lot of different crazy stuff right now. I'm trying to bring on a new software developer, and it's been a challenge. So this will actually be the third one that I've had. The first one was actually the guy who founded the company before I even knew of him. It was, you know, one of those kind of strange odd paths, which I think is more typical than people realize. But so I'm trying to bring this new guy on now, and I guess the question is, and I've actually been talking to an attorney a little bit about this, but my question is really about, you know, how should I really be thinking about bringing him on in terms of, you know, what would be the better idea? To try to bring him on as a contractor and then kind of, you know, play it by ear, or to try to lay out, you know, a little bit more of an incentivized contract that says, hey, you know, that can certainly be the way it starts, but right from the get-go, let's put something on paper that says, hey, you know, here's a potential vesting schedule, and you kind of have that carrot there right from the very beginning. I'm getting other people that are saying, well, you know, maybe you want to just, you know, let's just forego all of that piece of it because it's faster and you don't know what you might want create in terms of that part of the deal. But, you know, maybe you just want to let's just do a shorter term. Let's just kind of have a test trial period. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think, you know, it depends on what it takes to get this person on board and how badly you need him or her. I do think that the approach of saying, hey, let's do a contract so we can get to know each other is a good one. I like to tell people there's no such thing as good jobs or good candidates. It's just a question of fit. And so you still need to assess the fit on your end, and they need to assess the fit on their end. So I think it's worthwhile to do a contract if you can get them on board that way. What you can do is sort of speak generally and say, look, you know, here's roughly what we want. I mean, we want to eventually get you on as a full-time person and have equity. And it would be equity that vests over 4 years with a 1-year cliff, and then month to month after that. And we would pay you a salary and all these different things. But, you know, let's not start negotiating that, because if why would we do that until you're certain and we're certain that there's a good fit? And by the way, what you learn along the way may impact those negotiations.
Sure.
But I think it's worth putting the carrot in the sense of, yeah, our intention is we would like you to be a full-time employee earning equity in the company. But again, why negotiate that until we're both ready to do so?
Right. Yeah, it's one thing that, you know, and certainly there's always the option of saying, hey, you know, let's figure out some way we can have language that says that we can come back and renegotiate if it doesn't seem reasonable, because, you know, in that
but it's much harder, right? It's so hard to renegotiate something once it's been signed. So it's just much easier. Yeah. We're not even talking about signing it, but you anchors things in people's minds. It's probably better if you can to keep it at the level of, well, here's what it would roughly be like in terms of the qualitative nature of the offer. And we're not going to negotiate the quantitative nature of the offer just yet, because it doesn't make sense until we're both certain that this is something we want to do going forward.
Okay, that makes sense. In the discussions that I've had with this one specific individual, I've actually said, look, my idea would be to put something together that's like more like a memorandum of understanding. That technically, legally, it's still a contract because there is consideration going both ways, but the notion of a memorandum of understanding is that there is some of that qualitative aspect to it. And
Right.
once I kind of discussed that at length with him, all of a sudden, he was like, "Oh, okay, this makes sense," because he's a newbie to the startup world. So I've got things, I've got my work cut out for me on that level as well.
Right. And again, at the end of the day, I mean, we live here in the United States of America, and people are at-will employees. You can always terminate someone if it turns out they're no good. So, you just have to, but obviously you'd like to avoid that. That's why we try to do things like have people contract first so that both sides can feel like there's a good fit.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Walter. Now that was John before. What happened exactly? Is John transformed into Walter?
They're both here now.
Oh, they're both here now. Okay.
Yeah. And my understanding is Walter only has till about 7:30 because he has another commitment. Is that correct?
Well, Walter, if you want to ask a question, why don't you go ahead then? You can jump the line a little bit.
Thank you. Actually, yeah, my training starts at 8:30 my time. We just turned into winter time.
Ah, you're in South America.
Yes. So the email was saying that we will start 8 p.m. and I just realized that they should be on. So this is why I'm joining back.
Not a problem. Well, welcome aboard. Are you in Chile or another? Which country are you in?
Yes, I am in Chile. I'm now connecting using my mobile phone. I don't think I have enough bandwidth to turn my video on, but I can see you perfect.
That is fine. As I have often told all these people who insist on doing these web conferences, most of you are not good looking enough to justify the extra effort. But what are you going to do?
Great.
Look,
Yes, I am in Chile.
If I could make money modeling and people would pay me money to strut around in clothing, that would be fine. But, I don't think that's happening.
That's brilliant. So no, I don't have any specific question now. Thank you for allowing me to jump the line. I will just give like a 30 seconds update on my project, which is a fundraising platform for firefighters in Chile.
Oh, yes.
Just finally today I have a very ugly but working prototype, so you can go from checking a firehouse, then a company, and now donating to that company using your credit card or your debit card.
Congratulations. Well, now is the time to start getting feedback from the market then.
Yes, precisely. So I'm going to do that. It's and the worst part was actually the last part, because Chile has a monopoly, and this is what I wanted to let the other entrepreneurs know. Which is called Transbank. They're the only electronic payment option in Chile. So they behave worse than any public service I have been in touch with in Chile. So it took them over a month to set up just a very simple web link in which you have to manually fill everything.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. So the next step will be getting something that's integrated into our platform, so I can capture all data and charge the cars, and then I keep track of to which company are they donating to. But anyway, so that's my quick update.
Excellent. Now we also, I believe, before Walter came on board, we also had John. John, are you out there? John's muted. Is John using the John can always use the chat room, of course, if he wants to ask a question. Actually, I haven't brought up the chat. Michelle, you'll let me know if he's chatting a question in, right?
Yeah, there's nothing there. But John seems to be there, but not responding. So
Well,
maybe he's
John
having
wants,
microphone issues.
we do not require questions to be
Right.
asked. If you want to ask a question, you may. That means that Carl, if you want to ask anything else, you can as well. Or if you just want to, hear a story of some kind, you guys can just choose the topic of the story as well.
Hello?
There's John.
Hey,
Hey,
John.
John.
Oh, sorry, I had to switch my microphone. It wasn't working on the port I had it, I guess.
Got it.
Anyway, no, I really didn't have any questions. I've been involved with you guys with the AFRL lab launch, which I guess at the moment they said there wasn't a lot of participants, so we didn't move on with the team activities. I'm not sure if if that's moving forward or not, or what your guys' plans with that are.
Well, I'll defer to Michelle on this question.
Sure. So my understanding is it's kind of just hanging out at this point, shall I say. Jeff Abbott actually was the one who had the ties there, and he worked more closely with them. I'm kind of tertiary to this, but I think they're still trying to create some sort of program. However, in the meanwhile, students who are still active, I've just kept in the academy. I mean, there's no reason that on your own you still can't do the startup education and work through the program. Walter is not tied to the AFRL program, and he's just going through our academy. So you had been active, and that's why we've kept you here. And there is a chance that AFRL New Mexico will be able to reinvigorate the lab launch. And if not, you can just continue to enjoy our classes as is.
Right. It's been interesting. I've been enjoying being a part of it and going through the academy. So
excellent. Good to hear.
Excellent. Well, and again, if you manage to recruit any other folks down in Albuquerque to jump on board, be sure to let us know. Again, to some extent, we do count on the local labs to gather the people together and generate the interest. And if they're unable to do so, it's unfortunate, but at least we get a couple of people like you who are jumping on board and getting some education.
Great. Yep.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's go back, if that's the case, and say, if Carl, you want to ask another question, you certainly may. Or if anyone wants to ask for a particular story on a particular topic, I will do my best to comply.
I don't have anything off the top of my head, although I don't know why. There's just way too much going on right now. Yeah, if I think of something, I'll certainly let you know.
Got it. No problem. So
how about a fundraising story, Chris? Or
fundraising story. Excellent. All right, that's a good one. So let me tell a fundraising story that is. Let me tell a fundraising story. Let's see. What would be a good one? I'm going to tell a fundraising story about the power of traction. How about that? Because it's always good to sort of say, well, what is it that actually gets people to give you money? So one of the companies in our portfolio is Tracker. And Tracker used to be known as PhoneHalo. It's a company that's based out of Santa Barbara. Its founders, Chris and Christian, yes, those are their actual names, were engineering students at UCSB who won their business plan competition their senior year. And instead of going off and getting jobs, they decided they would start their company and make it happen instead. PhoneHalo was the first name, and it reflects what they were doing, which was using these Bluetooth tags to be able to connect with your phone. And these Bluetooth things would go on your keychain or what have you, and that way you'd never lose your keys. Because if the keys got too far from your phone would set off an alarm and would also record where it last connected with your keys so that you'd go back and find them again. And I thought this was pretty cool because it's very similar to an idea another friend of mine had back when we were undergraduates at Stanford over 25 years ago, which is a long time. But the technology had finally caught up. So I began mentoring them and advising them and investing in them. And, I invested in them at, I think, a $2.5 million pre-money valuation, which was considered low. But that was what the market was because they were a small company based in Santa Barbara outside the major metropolitan areas. And the founders were these two soft-spoken former engineering grads. And, as a result, there are all sorts of other people roaming around saying, we're going to change the world, we're killing this, we're crushing that. And these guys didn't do that. So they raised a little bit of money that way and just kept on building the business, generating, the products kept getting better. Bluetooth gave way to Bluetooth Low Energy. So instead of having to charge your little thing every day, you could just actually attach it and leave it. They kept getting smaller so that you could actually slip it into your wallet or put it on your suitcase. And they kept finding new and different ways to get distribution, partnerships and advertising and so on to generate sales. And they were ultimately able to get to the point where they're selling millions of dollars a year worth of this stuff profitably. It was at that point that they were able to get a Series A investment from Foundry Group, which is, of course, a famous venture capital group led by Brad Feld out of Colorado. They've invested in a lot of companies, very successful ones, Fitbit, Rally Software, and so on and so forth. And that allowed the Tracker to continue expanding. They've continued growing. I can't reveal the exact numbers, but I can tell you that they are getting close to 9 figures in annual sales, and they are raising a massive growth round from sort of private equity firms as opposed to venture capital firms to continue growing and hopefully get them to that, over $100 million a year revenue mark so that they can go public or, of course, potentially be acquired. And, all throughout this process, they haven't changed. Like, their manner hasn't changed. They haven't started suddenly beating their chests and saying, we're crushing it, we're killing it. They're still the same soft-spoken, focused on, telling a factual story guys that they always have been. But the fact that they've had all this traction allows them to negotiate with people from a position of strength. And it's just a sign, you don't have to necessarily change who you are in order to be successful at fundraising. Of course, it always helps if you are phenomenally charismatic and able to tell a story that has people hanging on the edge of their seats just without even any preparation. Of course, that's great. But even if that's not you, if you are really building a great business, the results will speak for themselves, and people will start to reinterpret your personality, your behavior away from, oh, wow, he's not confident, to, wow, he's so confident that he's able to be humble. Right? It's like the old saying goes, rich people aren't crazy, they're eccentric. So traction is the equivalent of being rich. Instead of being crazy, you're eccentric. Instead of lacking confidence, you're humble. Everything gets reinterpreted based on what they know. So when it comes to fundraising, I always tell people the most important thing is to get traction going, because if you have traction, people will reinterpret how they see you.
Great story.
You're welcome. Well, we have Walter for another 9 minutes. Are there any other stories that people want to hear? I could certainly tell another story. We could also always end early. It's entirely up to you guys, because I don't want you to feel like just because you were the diehards who actually showed up, that I'm going to drag you and keep you here necessarily. So I'll leave it up to the audience to decide.
Okay.
We can try and interpret the silence here. Anybody? Feedback?
So, okay. If somebody has a question, let him go. But I think I have something.
Oh,
Carl, it's you. Go.
So, all right. So I haven't really structured any sort of business plan around this particular issue that I'm going to describe. But basically, I have been trying to stay very, very focused in a very tight niche. So, I'm looking right now that the industry that I serve primarily is the trucking industry. So any companies that employ commercial drivers, essentially. It expands a little bit beyond that. Already one of our customers, for example, is a charter bus company. But let's say school bus driver industry is actually a little bit off to the side. And I'm not that I couldn't serve that, but I'm actually a little bit more focused than that right now, just because every time you get into a different segment, it adds complexity to what their needs are and what you've got to do. So I'm trying to stay very focused, but at the same time, let me back up 1 second. So there are the the product that I'm building right now, that customers are using, is very singularly focused in that sense. It does some different things, so it has that multifunctionality, but it's very singularly focused. And as I continue to grow and build on the business ideas, I have some other products so that I basically want to start to pull into the bigger picture. And it's not under the idea that, hey, if I just had this one more function, the whole world would basically buy my product. It's not that. But it's a strategic sort of a play where we're looking at, for example, right now it is a cloud web app. We don't have, let's say, a separate mobile app that goes with it, but there is something along the lines of a mobile app that I'm thinking about, but it doesn't work. It's actually a separate product, but it ties in strategically. And then there are some other pieces that I'm looking at bringing in, including starting to tap into some government data, at some different levels, and to start to basically really expand what we're doing. And when I get to those points, it's going to really, I think on one level, I'm a little bit concerned that, this really causes me to all of a sudden lose that singular, very tight focus that I think is very helpful when I go out and do sales. But at the same time, I think there's a point where the business has to grow. And I see this as my longer term vision in terms of this, not only how it serves the marketplace and expands the servable market that we can reach, but it also has a strategic piece that all of a sudden I think could have a lot to do with much more rapid scalability. So I'm excited about this, but at the same time, I'm trying to stay focused, and I have difficulties with that because I wanted to do great things, and I'd love to see it all start to happen yesterday. So obviously I'm very tight right now in terms of I'm looking for a new software developer, and I got to bring in somebody on the sales side and some other HR sorts of things to start to build and pull my team together. So I know that I have some immediate priorities, but as I move down this path a little bit, how would you describe is the right way for me to think about now is the right time to start to do some more market research in terms of these other parts and pieces, if you will? It's more like a hub and spoke sort of a concept where I'm focused right now just on the hub. But at what point do I start to think about that and start to pull those pieces of the picture together? Because each one of those will have its own market research component unto itself, because they're actually individual pieces, really.
Right. So I think that, there are two reasons why you would be looking outside your core product. The first is you're worried you're going to have to abandon your core product because it just doesn't work. Or the second is you've established your core product, and now you're looking for ways to generate more revenue and tackle things that are naturally complementary. And, I think there are definitely things that are naturally complementary. Like, for example, if you look at Google Docs, the Google Suite, you have the Docs, you have the Sheets, those things, the Drive, those things sort of naturally go together. Those are naturally complementary. And of course, those were actually, previously different companies that Google bought and welded together. So that was a case where, you had products where there was obviously some sort of complementary thing going on, and it made sense. So if your product is not complete without something, then yeah, absolutely, it could make sense. Or alternately, if you don't feel like your product is making progress, maybe you want to pivot, you want to try a different product, that's also reasonable. But if you're like, I believe in my product, I think it's going to go well, it's still very early, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but I think it's going to go well, let me add on more products now. I think that's not what I'd suggest, right? So it takes so much work and effort just to get one product right, that if you haven't got it running well on its own, generating traction and just, customers knocking down the door, don't then say, I'm going to split my efforts and do a second product. Unless, like I said, that second product is necessary in order for the first product to really be complete, or if that first product is doing so well that you are looking for areas of expansion and you feel like investing in a second product is going to deliver better returns than continue to reinvest in the first.
Okay.
So I would say, based on what you're telling me, probably now is not the right time to do it. But, again, consider what I said, and you'll make your own decision.
Yeah, well, definitely now is not. I know now is not the right time, but it's more about trying to. I guess in my mind, it's more what is that flag that I need to see.
It is. So it is. There is no one trigger. It is an investment decision, and what you do is you look at you continuing to invest in the current product and investing in a new product. And if you believe that you get a better return on investment from investing in a new product, because again, it's not about money, it's also about time. That's also an investment. Then you should invest in the new product. But if you haven't done that, you need to do that actual investment calculation and comparison in order to know what makes sense. And again, you may not be right in your calculations. Maybe you're misestimating. Maybe you're guessing wrong. But, you're still better off if you systematically actually look at it as an investment decision.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Great. All right, Michelle. Well, that takes us to the half-hour mark. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover while we're on?
I don't think so. I think this is good. I think we got a bunch of questions. You got to tell a story. I think it was a good evening.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was very good. I just
My
want to
pleasure.
add a little bit to that story. While I was doing my sales presentations to the initial firehouses to get them at least a letter of intent, I prepared a short presentation with a little demo of what a fundraising project would look like. And I found on the internet a new phone. It's a Caterpillar phone, which includes an infrared camera.
Mm.
As you may know, infrared cameras are very useful for firefighters.
Yes.
So I put that as an example of what a project would look like. Let's imagine this firehouse will want to buy like these 3 phones or whatever. But I got so much excitement from the firefighters about learning about this phone that I bought one. I mean, from the US. I have it for Actually, it arrived like 3 days ago, and I was still playing with it, taking infrared pictures at my house and everything. But I wanted to share, this phone was $575. And when I was just in home energy efficiency, I think the cheapest IR camera was like $4,000 3 years ago. So I think that this is just amazing. I just also wanted to plant the seed, that these IR cameras they're so much used to that. And now they're so cheap that you probably take a look at that. So, but right now I'm going to explore, like, not as a second product, but probably as a second revenue stream, just to probably either as affiliate sales for this with Caterpillar or a sponsor or something else. But the point is, I got so much excitement from the market that I need to get one of those.
Got it. Right. And so what you're saying is essentially, because I'm not tackling additional product work. It's just by introducing firefighters whom I'm already talking with to this concept, I might be able to make a few extra bucks. And the distinction there, I would argue it's still a little distracting, but because you're not splitting up the precious product resources, it's just something you're tacking onto your sales calls, that's probably okay.
Okay, great.
Yep. Excellent.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for Chris for hosting.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk to everybody soon.
Have a great week, everyone.